doing today, huh? Let's see if I can get in my chair here. Didn't plan that here correctly. So it's getting to be evening time. I thought, well, I need to make a video for you all, and I needed to make a quick few little batches of some pine pitch infused glycerin and some pine pitch infused oil. And I figured you'd like to watch me do that. So you might have watched that video a little bit back where I was talking to you about pine pitch out in the wild. And maybe you're like, okay, I went out and I gathered all this pitch off a tree, pine tree or whatnot, and I'm not quite sure what to do from here. It's okay, it's easy, I'm going to show you. So I've got two different jars where I'm making two different things at once. Got gloves, and I've got my pine pitch here. Now I like to keep my pine pitch and gather my pine pitch in plastic bags because I can reuse them, but also I can pop it in the freezer, and then it makes it easier for me to work with the pitch because it's really sticky stuff, folks. So gloves are important, and if you get some on your hands, don't worry, I'll tell you a trick in a little bit to get it off really easy. And I'm working kind of fast here because it's hot out, and this pitch has already gone from frozen to kind of cold. See, it's already, and if it gets to room temp, it is gonna, it is gonna be hard for me to peel it off the bag. So, now you could just make a pine pitch infused oil or just a glycerin, but I'm gonna show you how to do both. See how easy that came off the bag? And I could get those little pieces out of there too. She smells amazing. Now if you watch the video, I really prefer the still really soft stuff, so I have to work with her pretty quickly. So I'm going to take whatever jar I'm going to use, and whatever jar you use, don't use some jar that was like your great-great-grandma's that like means the world to you, because there's a very real possibility that you might not ever fully get the pitch out of it. And that's the rule when you're working with pitch, like whatever you decide to store it in is forever considered something you store pitch in, which is why I like to reuse plastic bags over and over. You can make yourself what's like called a pitch pot, where you take all this pitch and you toss it into like a ceramic pot, but you'll never ever have that be anything else. It will forever have pitch in it. So you see, I'm just kind of breaking this pitch up a little bit. And it wants to stick to the gloves, but it'd be worse on my hands. And I'm breaking it up so there's more surface space for the glycerin or the oil to extract from. Alright, let me get some in this jar. You can see how fast it's warming up. It's like, oh, hello, I'm going to wake back up for you, like, really fast. Like, I just took this out of my deep freezer maybe 10 minutes ago while I was, getting set up for the video, and I probably should have made that the last thing I did. But I know for the future. And so just breaking it up, fill in your little jars. And I mean, if it sticks to the bag, it's no big deal because you just pop it back in the freezer and then it'll harden again and it comes right off. Alright. There's a good little bit of pitch in each. So I'm just going to stash that in there. Take these sticky gloves off. Okay, you've got your jars with pitch in it. Now, if you want to make an oil-infused pitch, which you can use to make like a body oil or salves or balm, use it in creams or lotions, any way you want, or, just use it as is, you're just going to pour your oil of choice over top. I am pretty diehard about only using avocado oil. I just really love avocado oil. I know it's a little bit more spendy, but I like it because I do a lot of cream and lotion making, and you have to bring those oils up to a high temp before you can do the whole emulsification process if you're doing lotions that contain water or creams that contain water. And avocado oil has a really, really high smoke point, which means I don't worry about burning my oil. And I also like it because I don't notice that it has a tendency to go rancid. It lasts a long time. It soaks in the skin really quickly, and it's got really great levels of healthy fats in it that our skin crave. So I've just poured my avocado oil over top of my pitch. And I'm just going to cap it up. Now, I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to use glycerin for this one. Now, glycerin is and isn't an oil. This would be technically if you wanted to make a pitch tincture, and I'll talk about all of her properties in a second here. You would need to use glycerin, although I want to be clear that glycerins don't make actual tinctures. Tinctures have to be made with alcohol, but a lot of people like to make this as like a substitute, even though it's not really a tincture and it has a tendency to go rancid and it won't be as strong as a normal tincture. But you're like, well, why wouldn't you just use alcohol? Well, that's because pitch is hydrophobic, which basically means she's like terrified of water. Nothing you do with pitch and water will ever result in the pitch infusing into the water. And that's because she is literally meant to keep the tree from getting moisture on wounds. So its job is to keep water out. Now I use this infused glycerin, and it'll get really nice and dark as it infuses. I like to use it when I'm making like gels, or I also use it in my creams or lotions. So you think that this is like an oil soluble, that you could mix this and this together, but you can't, because this acts like a water and this acts like an oil. But that means if I'm making just like a body spray or something and I'm not having any oil in it, and I want to use like something that doesn't have any oil, or maybe not even a preservative, I could take this glycerin and I could mix it into something like witch hazel, and I could use it as like a face spray, or on my body, wherever, for like acne or infections or wounds, and she's fantastic. Now you can't mix oil and water without having a preservative in there, because oil plus water equals a bacterial explosion. So this would be for a body oil, and this would be for if you wanted to use it like a tincture, or if you were wanting to make like a body spray, or anything that you're needing to put water in water. We're not needing to use an emulsifier. So pitch is really amazing. She's antibacterial, she's antifungal, she's antimicrobial, she's even a bit antiviral when used internally, which means you can use her for just about any wound you've got going on your skin. And if you're going to use her internally, go easy, because she does have a really high amount of volatile oils, which can be pretty rough on our liver. But if you use her in small amounts, when you've got like a nasty like respiratory anything, her particular terpenes are pretty good for the respiratory tract, anything that's gunky or infection going on like that. But again, she wouldn't be something that I used every day, but externally, there's not much that pitch can't do. I don't care if it's eczema, psoriasis, cystic acne, even hormonal acne. Although she's not going to address the problem that's causing the acne, she can help the acne not get out of control. And a lot of cystic acne is actually like a bacterial infection, so it's going to get in there and help just kind of push all that bacteria out. There's not much wounds that I don't use pitch for. I really like combining her with yarrow. Like, I feel like yarrow and pitch are just like a match made in heaven. So you can make yourself an infused oil, and then you could blend it with a yarrow oil, or you could put yarrow in here at the same time. You can be creative with these things that you're making. You could do the same thing with this. You could put yarrow in this too. So the next step is to sit these somewhere dark and warm. Now usually you hear me say put something in a dark and cool place, but these need heat. Pitch needs heat. And I don't mean get like tricky and try to stick it in your crock pot for 2 or 3 days. I mean find yourself a nice dark location, or like build yourself a little box that sits on top of your fridge or on top of your water heater. In the sun you could, but I would cover it, because the sun destroys like all herbal and medicinal and properties that you're wanting left in there. The sun is the great decayer, so my God, stop putting your infused oils out in the sun, because it makes them look pretty fast. You can, however, put like a sock over it or something to keep the rays of the light from actually hitting it, and then it'll warm up. And what that does is it's going to help your pitch melt into the oil or into the glycerin, and you can just go and go and go until you don't see any pitch left in the jar. And usually I'm letting mine sit for like 8+ weeks or more. I built a little heat box where I take those like outside like storage bins that people store like hoses and like pool stuff or whatever in. I bought one of those, and I took a seed heating mat that has a thermostat that'll turn off if it gets too hot for safety. And then I put that in the box, and then I put all of my jars on top of that mat, and I close the box, and it gets really hot in there. It usually stays around 100 degrees, and then it'll click off if it gets too hot, and then turn back on when it cools down. And so it's a really fantastic way, but you end up with just this beautifully infused oil. It's fantastic. And now with the glycerin, it'll definitely take a little bit longer to dissolve it, but what I normally do is I take off as I need out of the glycerin jar, and then I just add more glycerin back into it, because as it's dissolving, there's still more properties to extract from this. So unlike plant matter, you've infused it for a long time, it's never going to like dissipate. There's nothing more you can get out of those plant allies. It's all been put into the oil. But with pine pitch, until that pitch isn't visible, there's more herbal properties that you can continue to extract with your glycerin, or even your oil, you know, if you really had to pull off. Now, if you get a bunch of pitch on your hands out in the wild, watch. I'm just gonna do it for you. Let me get a real sticky piece of pitch here. Now my fingers are just like, there. Can you see how sticky that is? And it's just going to keep getting worse if I let it warm up. And so now, look, the pitch is gone, but clearly it's not. My fingers are really crazy sticky, right? Your first thought might be to go to alcohol, unless you're like using some really strong, like kerosene level type stuff. It's not going to take it off. But what you can do is take a little bit of oil. Any kind of oil would do. Just rub it around like that. Ta-da! I don't have any, I'm going to use my gloves to wipe it off. Rub it into my hands. Your fingers aren't sticky anymore, and what's happening is the fat content in the oil is basically acting like it isolates the stickiness, right? It goes around those tiny little molecules, and then it does something called saponification, in a way where it's getting in there and it's breaking apart like not the fatty aspects, but like just the sticky resinous aspects. Those are the words I'm looking for. And so it's kind of like saponification. Saponification is more about breaking down like fat molecules, but it's just kind of a weird, not going to get it out in an easy way for anyone to understand. Anyhow, that was pretty easy. It was pretty easy to put some pitch in a jar and pour some oil over it. And it was easy to put some pitch in a jar and pour some glycerin over it. And it was easy to use oil to get it off of my fingers. And you are absolutely smart enough to do this. And when you get it done, you'll be able to make body oils and salves and sprays. And really, you're only as limited as you limit your own imagination. As soon as you let your mind loose, it's just going to go crazy with the possibilities. So don't let anybody ever make you feel like you're not smart enough, because you are absolutely smart enough to do this, and everything that you learn on your own out of curiosity here in books, all these things, is completely valid, and you don't need to pay somebody thousands of dollars to take a course in the United States that doesn't certify you in anything, okay? You're just paying somebody to give you information that's already out there for free. You just have to get curious and go look for it. So if you like my ranting, my rambling, my sticky fingers and oil all over them, things like that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you're watching me on YouTube, come find me on Instagram. If you're watching me on Instagram, come find me on YouTube. You know, get this information out there, share all these things. It really helps other people learn and remember all these simple things, take their health back into their hands, and realize that they're smart enough too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.